Sinabi ko na noon at ilang beses ko nang inulit na hindi ako ang problema ng bayan na ito. Ang totoong problema ng bayan ay kagutuman, kahirapan, illegal na droga, kriminalidad, terorismo, hindi na sapat na healthcare, kalidad ng edukasyon, kawalan ng plano ng infrastruktura para sa disasters, at marami pang iba.
Sambayanang Pilipino, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Sa anumang negosyo, maliit man o malaki, normal na dumadaan sa pagsusuri ng mga boss ng negosyo ang operasyon at budget ng negosyo. Alam yan ng mga entrepreneur. Saan mang lungsod, munisipyo o barangay, ang operasyon at budget ng LGU ay dumaraan sa pagsusuri ng kanilang konseho. Ganyan po ang proseso dahil tayo ay bahagi ng isang demokratikong republika. Hindi po tayo monarkiya, komunistang rehimen o diktadurya. Ang Pilipinas ay isang demokratikong republika. Kapag eleksyon, wala tayong iniluluklok na hari o reyna o emperatriz sa pwesto ng kapangyarihan. Ang ating demokratikong republika ay mayroong kongreso, hudikatura at ehekutibo. Tatlong sangay ng gobyerno na pantay-pantay at binabalanse ang isa't isa. Tungkulin natin dito sa kongreso na busisiin ang panukalang budget ng ehekutibo at ang panggastos ng mga nakaraang ipinagkatiwalang pondo ng bayan. Hindi pera ng pangalawang Pangulo ang Office of the Vice President budget para sa 2022, 2023, 2024 at 2025. Pondo ng bayan yan. Kaya nga mayroong budget hearings ay para malaman ng madlang people kung paano ginagastos ng mga opisina ng gobyerno ang pondo ng bayan na ipinagkatiwala sa kanila. Ngunit, nitong nakaraang linggo, inilantad ng Vice President ang kanyang hindi kagandahang asal at kawalan ng respeto sa ating saligang batas at demokratikong republika. Dito sa Kamara, hindi natin tinatapatan ng kabastusan ang kabastusan. Maling asal kasi yan. Sa Maynila, dito sa Kamara, pamantayan natin ang pagiging magalang kasi kaugaliang Pilipino yan. Maling akala ni Vice President na siya hindi maaring salungatin ng kahit sino. Yan ang nasaksihan natin sa budget hearing ng Office of the Vice President. Maling akala ni BP na may kapangyarihan siyang utusan ng Committee on Appropriation na palitan ang presiding officer nito. Mabuti tuwiran sinagot ang kabastusang ito sa isang magalang na paraan ni presiding officer. Maling akala rin ni BP na wala tayong karapatan magtanong ng anumang bagay tungkol sa budget ng kanyang opisina. Isang karuwagan at pag-iwas sa tanong ang kanyang sagot. Yan ang nagdudumilat na katotohanang nasaksihan natin sa budget hearing. Takot sa mga lehitimong mga tanong ng taong bayan. Sa simula pa lang ng kanyang presentasyon at ayon sa kanyang sinasabi, wala na talaga siyang balak sumagot sa anumang tanong. Sinayang ng pangalawang Pangulo ang pagkakataon na ibida sa sambayanang Pilipino ang accomplishment ng Office of the Vice President. Pagkakataon na sana niyang patunayan sa Kongreso at sa sambayanan kung sino ang naging beneficiary ng kanyang mga socio-economic programs. Ang nakakapagtaka sa kanyang budget ng 2023, 2024 at 2025 ay bakit sa National Capital Region lang nakalaan ang mga ayuda programs niya. Bilang chairman ng House Committee on Metro Manila Development, nagtataka lang ako kung saan sa Metro Manila napunta ang bilyong pondo ng socio-economic program sa kanyang office. Nagtataka ako dahil siya naman ay pangalawang Pangulo ng buong bayan. Sinayang din ng pangalawang Pangulo na ibida sa Kongreso at sambayanan kung ano o kung kanino nakipagpartner ang Office of the Vice President. Sa kanilang 2025 budget proposal, mayroong 977,615 beneficiaries. Nasaan na ito? Totoo ba ito lahat at verified ba? Sabi ng OBP sa kanilang budget proposal, nagkaroon din sila ng 793 strategic partnership noong 2023. Nasaan ang lista ng strategic partnership at mga strategic partnership agreements? At kapag walang totoong lista ng beneficiary at totoong dokumento ng strategic partnership, hindi malayong maghinala ang taong bayan na nawala ang pondo ng bayan para siguro sa darating na panahon. Sa halip na sagutin ng matino ang mga tanong ng Kongreso ay paulit-ulit lang na binasa ang kanyang sagot. At bilang pagtatapos, nais ko lang pong ipaalala sa mga botante at sa Maynila at sa buong bansa, hindi nararapat sa atin, lalo na't siya'y nag-aambisyon na maging Pangulo, ang ayaw magsabi kung saan ginastos ang pondo ng bayan. Sino ba talaga ang pinaglilingkuran niya? Baka naman ang boss niya ay humaharang sa bangka ng mga Pilipinong mangingisda o ang mga promotor ng pogo. Ganyan ba ang asal ng ating Vice Presidente at nag-aambisyong maging Presidente? We deserve better. Salamat po.
From the Office of the Vice President, COA, and DBM po. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, the Honorable
yes,
Vice
when you
President.
sent a letter to the Office of the Vice President, you attached a copy of the rules
Okay.
in aid of legislation.
Yes po.
Yes, sir. Nakalagay po doon na witnesses lang po ang ino-oath. Sabi niyo po ngayon sa amin, resource persons kami.
Ang ano po, considered as resource person po.
Ang ano po.
Kayo po.
Kaya nga po.
Yes po. Lahat po ino-oath po.
Yes.
Apo.
Nakalagay po sa rules ninyo, witnesses. Nakalagay po dito ngayon sa table, resource persons.
Lahat po considered as resource person and witness. Lahat po naman kayo, lahat resource person pa eh. Wala pa naman po tayong tinatawag na, lahat po considered as resource person pa lang po.
Right. Opo. Ang nasa rules ninyo, witnesses lang po ang nag-o-oath. Wala po kayong rules sa resource persons.
Ma'am, ano lang po yun eh. Yung term lang po yun eh. Pero considered as resource person din po kayo eh.
Yes, sir.
Opo.
Resource persons nga po
Kayo
nakalagay
witness
dito.
din po at saka resource person po.
Hindi niyo po sinabi na witness ako. Sinabi niyo po dito ngayon, resource persons. Ang nakalagay po sa rules ninyo, witness.
Comsec, ano po yung pinadala po ninyo?
Yun pong rules in aid of legislation.
But we will proceed to the oath taking. If the Vice President refuse to take her oath, we will respect that.
A message, sir, or my statement regarding the point of order. Message? Mga kababayan, ladies and gentlemen, assalamualaikum, warakmatullahi wa barakatuh. Madayaw, mayong adlaw, kaninyong tanan. Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. The officials of the Office of the Vice President, as well as each and every one of our satellite office leads, were in receipt of a letter from the chairman of the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability dated September 13, 2024, requesting our presence or that of our duly authorized representatives in today's initial deliberation with preliminary determination on privilege speech number 379. In view of the said letter, I am appearing before you today not only as the head of office, but more importantly, as the duly authorized representative of all officials of the OVP. Simply because we have not done anything wrong. There is no misuse of funds. If there are audit findings, we shall gladly respond to them before the Commission on Audit. And if there are legitimate cases to be filed, then we shall gladly respond to them before the appropriate courts. In relation to this, may I just say that I take notice of the opening speeches and nasabi doon, there is a determination of misfeasance, nonfeasance, and malfeasance. And those are cases that should properly be taken in the courts of law. What we are witnessing now is no ordinary legislative inquiry. This exercise is a well-funded and coordinated political attack. This much is evident from the very words of the privileged speech that prompted this inquiry. A speech that simply meant to say, do not vote for Sara on 2028. It is clear to me that this inquiry is not about misused funds, accountability, or governance. Instead, it is solely aimed at discrediting my name and my office to prevent future political contests. I have publicly stated my reasons as to why I've chosen not to defend the OVP's budget proposal for 2025. I have narrated the issues I encountered in previous years, which can easily be confirmed by looking at the NEP, the GAB, and the GAA for fiscal years 2023 and 2024. Further, I have even shared the drama that transpired last year regarding the confidential funds. Hence, just as we have done last year, we again leave the 2025 OVP budget to the pleasure of Congressman Martin Romualdez. I am not asking for any special treatment, nor am I asking you to uphold any tradition. There is no disrespect. All I am saying is that you have the complete freedom to do whatever you wish with the OVP budget. If you feel that all the documentary submissions are not enough, then by all means, huwag kayo magbigay ng budget. Sa totoo lang, hindi naman ang budget ang punteriya ninyo. Dahil napakadali naman magtanggal ng budget. What you are trying to do is make a case for impeachment. Hindi naman ako kakandidato sa nalalapit na eleksyon. Hindi ako namumulitika. Ang ginagawa ko lamang ay ang pagtupad sa aking oath of office at campaign platforms na trabaho, edukasyon, at mapayapang pamumuhay. So, you may try to destroy me, you can skin me alive, and throw my ashes to the wind. But let it be known, you will find me unbowed. I will continue to serve the Filipino people no matter the personal cost or political intrigue. Having said that, I will not allow myself to be subjected to an inquiry based on an empty privilege speech just so you can attack me and do indirectly what you failed to do directly during the budget hearings. I therefore request this committee to terminate this inquiry for its clear lack of any proposed legislation or substantive matter for discussion. Shukran.
Dahil hindi naman po nag-oath yung Vice President, Mr. Chair, ang akin na lang mga tanong ay tatanong ko na lang po sa DBM at saka sa COA. So, nung 2022 po na budget ng Office of the Vice President sa DBM, Mr. Chair, meron po ba ditong nakalagay na line item for confidential funds?
There is no, Madam Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. How about noong 2023 budget of the Office of the Vice President? Is there a line on about confidential funds?
There is, Mr. Chair, there is a line item for
Magkano po, Mr. Chair, yung confidential funds of the Office of the Vice President for 2023?
500 million, Mr. Chair.
Okay, you're correct. Kasi nandito naman, meron naman tayong ano dyan. Okay, so kung i-compare natin, Mr. Chair, yung Office of the Vice President budget, GAA 2022 and GAA 2023, so makikita natin agad-agad yung difference. No, na yung confidential funds sa Office of the Vice President ng 2022 ay wala, pero sa Office of the Vice President sa 2023 ay meron. Okay, so paano po nagkaroon ng 125 million na confidential funds ang Office of the Vice President noong 2022, Mr. Chair, sa DBM?
Okay, Mr. Chair, while the OVP has no provision for the confidential funds under the fiscal year 2022 GAA, the said release of funds was charged against the contingent fund using the existing PAP of the Office of the Vice President. That is the Good Governance Program, Mr. Chair.
Well, ano po yung ibig sabihin ng good governance program po? Kasi defined, alam po natin meron tayong JC o joint circular governing confidential funds. So, can you elaborate on good governance, Mr. Chair, yung binabanggit ninyo po?
The Good Governance is a program of the OVP, and so that's the basis for us for the release of the confidential plan of the Office of the Vice President, Mr. Chair.
Well, can you elaborate ano ba yung good governance? Dahil malinaw po doon sa rules or the joint circular governing confidential funds, yung mga pwede lang napondohan ng confidential funds, Mr. Chair.
The Good Governance Program, particularly the Good Governance Engagement and Social Services Projects. This is in consideration of the urgency of the safe implementation of various projects and activities of the Office of the Vice President across its satellite offices for the last, the conduct of its official engagement and functional representation in international and local events, the implementation of various projects and activities relevant to national security and peace and order, and implementation of the same with proper security and safety protocols for the benefit of the institution, Mr. Chair.
So did the Office of the Vice President in 2022 ask for a budget for confidential funds for the DBM?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, for 2022, there is no request for the confidential in the budget, but we have, as mentioned, they have requests for the chargeable. We have requests for 2022, but that was charged to the contingent fund.
There was a... So, may request po ba o wala?
Doon sa proposed budget for 2022, wala po.
Pero saan po kinuha yung 125? Sinasabi nyo kanina, Mr. Chair, ay doon sa contingent fund. So, hindi po ba kapag merong request for a lump sum o merong ibibigay ang yung or pagkukuhanan yung lump sum, dapat may request?
Okay.
So-
Yes, Mr. Chair. So during the implementation of the fiscal year 2022 budget, there was a request coming from the Office of the Vice President to release an additional requirement for the fiscal year 2022 budget. Basically, hindi lang po yung confidential plan, but also for some PS and MOE requirements. Now, this was...
Pinag-uusapan lang natin yung confidential
Okay.
funds.
So, Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Chair.
yes, there was a request coming from the Office of the Vice President during the implementation of the budget in that year. So that's why in...
So, Mr. Chair, may I cut you on that with due respect? So, may I ask, Mr. Chair, the request...
Last
Yes.
question, please.
So, second round na lang ako, Mr. Chair. May I ask the DBM, Mr. Chair, the letter request from the Office of the Vice President?
The chair would like to recognize the Honorable Akop. But before you proceed, Congressman, the chair would like to recognize the presence of Honorable Johnny Pimentel, sir. Yes, Congressman Akop, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to follow up the issue raised by the Honorable Paduano. You cannot answer kung ano po ang timeline para sa regular audit at saka fraud audit. Tama po. Hindi po nyo nasasagot.
May I clarify po? Since
Mr.
Chair?
Fahad Tomawis, you are
Yes, po.
recognized.
Since I'm the audit team leader of the OBP for conducting the regular audit, meron po tayong timeline for the regular audit. Kasi usually, meron kaming timeline to transmit the report annually to the Congress, to the OP, and to the oversight bodies, as well as to the management or to the OBP. So meron pong timeline na nasa GAA po, nasa General Appropriation
Ano
Act
po yung timeline na yun?
for the regular audit.
Yes. Ano
But-
po? Ilan buwan? Ilan taon? Kasi mga taga-COA, yun po yung problema ni Chairman Carraps, who is the chairman of the Committee on Public Accounts. Yung hearing po namin doon, naririnig namin yung regular audit at saka fraud audit. At napapansin namin, napakatagal po. As if there's no difference between the timeline of the regular audit and the fraud audit. Kaya ang susunod na tanong ko rin sa inyo is, what is the purpose of a fraud audit? Anong objective? Kaya siguro sa next hearing, para hindi naman ma-delay yung proceedings na ito, banggit na rin sa susunod na hearing. Ano po?
Noted po, Mr. Chair.
Yes, kasi yun po ang problema namin sa mga hearings namin dito. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Please continue. Yes, kayo na po. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have more or less 30 questions and 2 manifestations. I hope the honorable congressman next to me would not gripe and get mad at me. Mr. Chair, may I proceed?
Yes, but you have to squeeze your 30 questions into manifestation into 5 minutes. Please proceed.
If
Mr. Chair,
that is the case, Mr.
I'm giving him all the time in the world.
Okay. Sige po. Please proceed, Congressman Akop.
Thank you, Vice Chair Abante. May I ask COA, ang una po ninyong ini-issue sa isang agency na nagkakaroon po ng problema tungkol sa kanilang use of public funds would be your AOM or Audit Observation Memorandum. Tama po ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
And the next would be a notice of suspension. Tama rin po ba?
Sa regular audit, pwedeng notice of suspension or pwedeng notice of charge.
Audit of?
Notice of suspension or notice of charge.
Notice of charge?
Charge po.
Yes, okay. And after that, there will be a notice of disallowance.
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
Tama. Now, would there be a timeline pursuant to your circulars na meron po yung interval ng pagbigay ng AOM, after which your notice of suspension or notice of charge, and then notice of disallowance?
Mr. Chair, sa regular audit and even sa confidential funds audit, 15 days after issuance of AOM, the agency must give their reply.
Yes, but they can ask for a motion, they can file a motion for reconsideration to extend the period. Nangyayari po yata yun.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, yun nga po ang may gusto lang akong i-point out. So, it's very possible na nagfa-file sila ng motion for extension of time to file their answer.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Tama?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Now, that is also true after the issuance of a notice of suspension.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Nagfa-file din, pwede rin sila mag-file ng extension of time before you give the notice of disallowance.
Mr. Chair, may I clarify those?
Please, Mr. Tomawis.
For the regular audit, first thing po na ginagawa namin pag may nakita kaming mga deficiencies, mag-issue kami ng AOM, and the management is given 15 days to reply for comments para ma-justify nila kung may mga justification sila. And then just in case po na dun sa deficiencies noted po namin is may mga non-submission of documents or may mga lacking documents, we can issue notice of suspension.
I know that, but ang tanong ko po is, they can file a motion to extend the time for them to submit. Nangyayari po yun, di po ba?
I think I have no authority or position na magsabi doon, because the notice pag po inappeal na, or for example may extension, but then on my perspective po as auditor ng OBP, we are required po doon sa we are required na dapat ma-comply po ng management. Pag nag-issue kami ng notice, dapat ma-comply nila within the 90 days period.
Assuming that
So,
they will not be able to comply, what is your next move?
That's the time po na pwede na kami mag-issue ng notice of disallowance kasi nag-mature na po yung notice
So,
of suspension.
15 days, sige, to follow you. After which, the notice of suspension, di pa rin siya, ano ang susunod? Notice of disallowance. How long would that take?
For the notice of disallowance po, for example, dun sa notice of suspension, pag na-issue na po yun, the management or the agency is given 90 days to comply with the requirements. Then if ever po na hindi nila ma-comply with that period, magmamature na po siya into notice of disallowance. Then,
So,
for
3.5 months.
90
days, that's 3 months plus 15 days, 3.5 months.
For the notice of suspension po, may requirement po na 90 days.
Kaya nga, plus yung 15 days na kwanyo ng kwan from AOM,
Yes,
so
from
that's
AOM.
3.5 months. Now, doon po sa question ng 125 million na confidential fund, in-issue nyo po yung liquidated report po nyo January 10, 2023. Di po ba? Would that be correct? And you issued the notice of suspension only in December 13, 2023. Would that be correct?
Mr. Chair, the first AOM was issued on September.
Hindi, tinatanong ko kung if that is correct, yung sinabi ko po. Kindly answer yes or no. Is my data wrong?
Mr. Chair, may I request?
Sabi ko,
for you?
dito po sa report nyo na notice of disallowance, yung liquidation report ninyo is dated January 10, 2023. Tama po.
Tama po.
Tama.
Mr.
Yun nga
Chair.
po ang tinatanong ko. And the notice of suspension was dated December 13, 2023. Now, January 10, 2023 to December 13, 2023, almost 1 year na. Akala ko ba ay 15 days lang dapat?
Mr. Chair.
Kailan nyo in-issue yung AOM nito?
Yung AOM po was issued September 14.
September 14. Di na-extend talaga. Ayan, sabi kanina ni Mr. Tumawis, 15 days lang. Pero dito, sa kaso na ito, kung September 13 yung AOM ninyo, dapat October pa lang, nag-i-issue na kayo ng notice of suspension. So tama yung sinasabi ko na na-extend yung time dahil yun ang experience namin sa sa hearings namin coming from your representatives.
Yung 15 days, Mr. Chair, is for them to answer. Of
Yes.
course, after they give their compliance po, we have to evaluate po their reply.
So how long would it take you? Kaya ko tinatanong yung timeline dahil ang problema, kung titignan po ninyo yung mga katanungan kanina, yung tagal.
Mr.
Di po ba?
Chair, it would depend po kasi sa complexity nung sinubmit nila po sa amin.
Well, anyway, let's deal with your AOM na in-issue po ninyo nung fiscal year 2022 yung confidential funds ng OVP. Pwede po bang malaman ano po ang nag-trigger na mag-issue kayo ng AOM regarding the confidential funds of the OVP in 2022?
Based on their submitted liquidation report, we found deficiencies in the documents that they gave us.
Doon sa documents na binigay po sa inyo.
Sa submitted liquidation report, Mr. Chair.
Pwede po bang malaman namin kung ano po yung major findings na nandun po sa Audit Observation Memorandum?
Mr. Chair, yung major findings are the ones that can be seen na po sa notice of disallowance. Which is yung sa payment of rewards.
Ang tanong ko po, Madam Attorney, is that ano po yung major findings doon sa AOM, hindi po sa notice of disallowance? Kasi you must have a basis why you issued the AOM. And I want to know the basis of that.
Mr. Chair, dun sa AOM, first they did not submit documentary evidence of payment to support their accomplishment report. And then, per analysis of the submitted accomplishment report, it was revealed that some of the fund was used for medical and food aid and travel relative to confidential operations, although it was not yet clear if, at that point, if it was used for confidential operations. And then we have the payment of rewards, which were not supported with documents evidencing the success of the information gathering. And then they also did not submit the special budget request and the amended accomplishment report. And then the DV was not properly accomplished by the DV was not
Okay. Yes.
particularly
Now,
accomplished.
these observations of yours were repeated sa notice of disallowance. Sinagot mo na yung kanina Di ba?
Yes, Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
Now, ang susunod na katanungan ko po is, did the Office of the Vice President issue any response in relation to your AOM?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that is why the remaining items in the NDs are those that we are not yet satisfied with.
Yes, the responses given by the Office of the OVP did not satisfy your requirement.
As to the ND, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Now, may in-issue din po kayong notice of suspension dahil hindi nga po acceptable yung sagot ng Office of the Vice President.
Yes, Mr.
tama?
Chair. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Ano po yun po yung dahilan bakit nag-issue kayo notice of suspension? Hindi nag-comply yung OVP sa mga requirements po ninyo.
Hindi nag-comply, Mr. Chair, or their compliance is still not sufficient.
Yes. Now, nung naibigay nyo yung notice of suspension po ninyo, pwede po bang malaman ano po yung findings na inilagay nyo ron at saka what steps did the Office of the Vice President take in view of the notice of suspension?
As to the notice of suspension, again, the rewards was not fully documented. Some of the accomplishment reports should not be included as confidential expenses,
Yes.
such as the tables, chairs. And then we noted also that some of the acknowledgement receipts were undated or not properly dated.
Okay.
And then they used different
Ma'am,
counting terms.
pwede po ba pakilakasan niyo yung boses ninyo tsaka Tagalogin na po ninyo? Para medyo mas maliwanag po.
Opo. Yung ibang nasubmit po na acknowledgement receipts, ibang accounting terms ang ginamit compared sa what is required in the joint circular.
So, Madam, sa pagkaintindi ko, kung maayos sanang sinagot ng Office ng Vice President yung mga requirements po ninyo, hindi na po dapat ma-issuean sila ng notice of disallowance. Would that be correct?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
Now, pero nag-issue po kayo ng notice of disallowance.
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Pwede po bang ilahad ninyo sa amin ano yung major findings at observations niyo sa notice of disallowance? Yun po bang binanggit ninyo? Yun din po ba?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yung sa payment of rewards na kulang po ang documentation on the success of the information gathering, yun pong pag-charge nila ng tables, chairs, desktop computers sa confidential funds which is not wala po sa joint circular. And then yun pong resubmission nung updated na accomplishment report nila sa 3 offices po.
And to confirm, Madam Attorney, these findings and observations were already raised doon pa lang sa AOM. Tama
Yes
po?
po? Tama po, Mr. Chair.
And sa matagal na panahon na naibigay natin ang pagkakataon sa Office of the Vice President na may paliwanag at ma-rectify kumbaga yung inyong mga observations doon sa AOM, hindi pa rin nabago hanggang nag-issue po kayo ng notice of disallowance.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mayroon naman pong submissions but kulang po.
In other words, hindi po ma-justify ng Office of the Vice President yung kanilang expenditure program, yung paggamit po nila ng pondo. In general, would that be correct?
That would be the correct po.
Mr. Chair, I just want to emphasize this point. Kasi a few weeks ago lang natin unang nabalitaan itong mga findings na nakalaan sa notice of disallowance. Pero sa naririnig ko ngayon from COA, last year pa nila pinupunto ang mga pagkukulang na ito ng Office of the Vice President. Sa aking pagtatanong po sa inyo, yun po ang lumalabas. Number two, last year pa, paulit-ulit na binigyan ng COA ang Office of the Vice President ng pagkakataon na maayos o may paliwanag itong mga expenditure na ginawa po nila sa paggamit po ng kanilang pondo. Tama rin po. At number three, after all that time and all those chances, hindi talaga maayos o may paliwanag ng OVP ang kanilang paggamit doon sa confidential fund worth 125 million. Would that be correct?
Bale, ang amount na lang po niya sa notice of disallowance is 73 something.
Yes. Yun ang hindi nila naipaliwanag hanggang ngayon.
Opo.
That is for the confidential fund for 2022. Now, could we go to the confidential fund for 2023 na worth 500 million? Tama rin po ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chair. Yung budget po nila.
Pwede po bang malaman, masabi ninyo dito sa committee na ito, kung nagkaroon din ba ng Audit Observation Memorandum na inisyo ninyo ukol sa 2023 confidential funds? Meron din po bang AOM ito?
Meron din po, Mr. Chair.
Meron?
Meron po, Mr. Chair.
Ngayon, ilan pong AOM ay nailabas po ninyo in relation to this 2023 confidential fund?
Dalawang AOMs po, Mr. Chair.
Dalawang
Yes, Mr.
AOM.
Chair.
Tama ba ang aking pagkaintindi na bawat quarterly disbursement ng OVP insofar as their confidential funds for 2023 are concerned ay may lumalabas na AOM galing sa inyo?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Although yung first and second period, pinagsama na po namin sa isang AOM.
Yes,
Kaya yung
but
third period-
pinagsama po nyo yung dalawang period.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Now, would it be true na ang ibig sabihin lahat ng quarterly liquidation ng OVP may problema?
Yes, Mr.
Ganun po ang lumalabas sa sagot po ninyo.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes. In general terms, maaari nyo po bang ipresenta sa committee ito yung major findings at observations sa bawat AOM na binigay po ninyo sa Office of the Vice President?
Mr. Chair, compared
Hindi,
sa...
tinatanong ko lang naman kung maaari po nyong ibigay dito sa committee. Ang sagot lang po nyo, kung kaya po ninyo, kaya nyo po ba o hindi?
Before you answer, Attorney Camora, the chair would like to manifest that the time of Congressman Acop is already up, but considering that Congressman Benny Abante already yielded to Congressman Acop, ibibigay po natin yung patutuloy po natin kay Congressman Acop yung time po ni Congressman Benny Abante. Please answer, Attorney Camora.
Mr. Chair, considering that the audit of the compliance of the AOMs is still ongoing,
You cannot submit.
I cannot yet.
Yun lang po ang gusto ko. Ang tanong ko naman po kung maaari nyo ibigay. Kung hindi pwede, you just give us the reason why.
Yes.
So, you cannot give it dahil ongoing pa yung inyong pan. Okay, thank you. Now, yung bang mga issues na nakikita nyo ngayon sa 2023, kagaya rin bang na mga issues noong 2022 vis-a-vis their confidential funds?
There are some similar findings, Mr. Chair.
Similar. So, ang ibig sabihin, ini-expect natin na mag-issue kayo ng notice of suspension at saka notice of disallowance. Would that be a correct statement?
I have yet to see the compliance report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Auditor. Mr. Chair, I would like to make a manifestation insofar as the refusal of the Vice President to take her oath insofar as the hearing of this committee is concerned. Such refusal can damage the public's perception of integrity in public office. The Filipino people deserve honesty and openness from their leaders, especially when their actions are being scrutinized. The House inquiry is in aid of legislation to serve the public interest. Dodging the oath gives the impression that the Vice President may not want the full truth to come out. No one is above the law or beyond the reach of truth. We humbly urge the Vice President to reconsider her position and take her oath, as this inquiry is meant to benefit the people we serve. Transparency should never be optional for public officials. We all owe it to the Filipino people to tell the truth under oath if it is necessary. Now, my second manifestation, Mr. Chair, would pertain to the issue of tradition as raised by the Honorable Marcoleta. And this is not my personal manifestation, but a manifestation of a group of Filipino citizens. And I would like to quote from their Viber. The Constitution of the Philippines, specifically Article 11, Section 1, explicitly states that public office is a public trust. At all times, public officers and employees must be accountable to the people, serve them with the utmost responsibility, integrity, loyalty, and efficiency. The primary responsibility of legislators is to the people and the nation, as this provision emphasizes. It is not to maintain outdated traditions that may obstruct necessary scrutiny and transparency in government operations. Although some may contend that these courtesies are extended to high-ranking officials, it is crucial to recognize that taxpayer funds are the source of funding for all public offices, including the office of the Vice President. Consequently, it is imperative that each centavo allotted to it undergoes the same rigorous assessment as any other department or office. Legislators are failing to fulfill their obligation to ensure that public funds are allocated responsibly and prudently by prematurely concluding budget discussions. The power of the purse is vested in Congress by Article 6, Section 24 of the Constitution. This authority requires the scrutiny of the national budget to ensure that it is in accordance with the requirements of the populace and that government programs and projects are appropriately funded and managed. Budget deliberations are not merely formalities. They are critical processes that enable legislators to evaluate and challenge the allocation of public funds. The constitutional mandate is directly violated by the use of tradition as an excuse to conclude these discussions. This is particularly true when the OVP's budget incorporates confidential funds, which necessitate even more rigorous scrutiny due to their nature. The people deserve transparency. It is time, I think, to discontinue a harmful practice. Not the deliberations themselves, but this long-honored tradition of circumventing critical budget evaluations should be terminated. Upholding such a practice, particularly when it directly affects the management of public funds, is a violation of the public interest mandate of legislators. We are at risk of fostering corruption and mismanagement by allowing tradition to supplant accountability. We have the right to demand that our representatives in Congress carry out their obligation to scrutinize the budget without exception as Filipinos. The OVP, or Office of the Vice President, like any other office that receives public funding, is subject to the same accountability standards. In order to guarantee that confidential funds are utilized for legitimate purposes that advance the public interest, they necessitate meticulous supervision. The first is a critical mechanism for preventing government overreach and the misappropriation of funds. Congress can guarantee that our government remains accountable to the people it serves by fulfilling this constitutional obligation. The public and our legislators are responsible for rejecting this detrimental tradition in favor of transparency and good governance. The integrity of our democratic processes and the restoration of trust in our institutions can only be achieved by doing so. Marami pong salamat, Mr. Chairman.
Let me address this to the COA. I have with me Joint Memorandum Circular 2015-01. And this is all about, I am correct that this is all about confidential funds. Tama po ba?
Attorney Camora.
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
Okay, GMC 2015-01. And I have also with me your memorandum circular in which this representation questioned that should be revised since last year. Memorandum Circular 97-002. Do you confirm? It is all about special cash advances. Tama po ba? MC 97-002.
Meron po, Mr. Chair.
Are you familiar with that?
Me personally, Mr. Chair, hindi po.
Oh, this is a Memorandum Circular 97 and this Joint Memorandum Circular 2015. And if you are not familiar with this, how can I ask questions and how can you answer my questions with regards to your mandate and your responsibility with regards to this Memorandum Circular 97-002?
Mr. Chair, as far as the confidential funds audit is concerned, we base our audit mainly on the joint circular.
Oh, of course. That's why, may I ask you, that's why I'm asking you about the MC 97-002. Because the first question to be raised to you, if you are familiar with MC 97-002, is thus Joint Memorandum Circular 2015-01 conforms or concur with your MC 97-002. Kasi ito po, lahat po dito is all about special cash advances. Mr. Chairman, how can we proceed? How can I proceed if the representative from COA
Attorney Camora.
is not knowledgeable about MC 97-002? Because requirements stipulated in MC 97-002 or the GMC 2015-01 should conform with MC 97-002. And looking at the provisions of both MC and GMC, not all, but most of the provision of such MC and GMC is conforms with MC 97-002.
Yes, Mr. Chair, because MC 97-002 is used for regular audit.
Correct. Tama.
Yes,
Okay,
Mr.
now,
Chair.
kasi hindi pwedeng magmanggaan yun, di ba? Tama?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, now, let me proceed. You have a copy now with MC 97-002?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, let me first ask, who appoints in this case, who appoints the SDO? In the case of the confidential fund of the Office of the Vice President, who is the appointing officer for the SDO?
As to the confidential funds, it was the president.
The president?
The OVP, the vice president.
The vice
Mr. Chair.
president. And the vice president, as the appointing officer, signed all the documents related to this, the disbursements of such fund. Tama?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
And of course, the special disbursement officer also signed. Tama?
Some of the documents, Mr. Chair.
Sandali. During disbursement, some, but some.
Lahat ba?
Bakit some?
Meron bang hindi siya?
Kasi binigyan nga siya ng authority. She or he was appointed as the SDO by the appointing officer. And in this case, it's the vice president.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Except
Tama.
for the liquidation transmittal letter, which is by the head of agency.
Sorry?
Except for the transmittal letter, which is signed by the head of agency, all the reports are signed by the SDO.
Correct. Except for the transmittal
Yes.
of the agency.
Yes,
Tama?
Mr.
But
Chair.
all liquidation reports and everything should be signed by the SDO.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Correct. And not only the SDO, not only, in this case, the vice president, and that includes also the accountant.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Now, can you name the special disbursement officer, disbursing officer, in this case, of the confidential fund?
It's Miss Gina Acosta.
Miss Gina Acosta. Okay. Specifically, what is the position of Miss Gina Acosta in the office of the Vice President?
Asan yung designation niya? Mr. Chair, our documents here only identify her as the SDO.
So your document is only identify her as the SDO.
SDO.
Okay, now, Mr. Chairman, with this, Mr. Chairman, I move that we invite Ms. Gina Acosta in the next hearing, and at the same time, the Office of the Vice President should submit to this committee the official designation of Ms. Gina Acosta.
There's a motion to invite Gina Acosta from the Office of the Vice President. Is there any second to the
Mr.
motion?
Chair.
Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried.
Can I proceed, Mr. Chairman?
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next, in all liquidation report, the SDO should sign, the Vice President in this case should sign, and the Chief Accountant should sign. Tama po ba?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And who is the Chief Accountant that signed this liquidation report?
It's Miss Julieta Villa del Rey.
Julieta
Villa del Rey.
Villa del Rey. Mr. Chairman, again, I move to invite Ms. Julieta del Rey, the Chief Accountant of the Office of the Vice President, in the next hearing. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion to invite Julieta Del Rey in the next scheduled hearing. Duly seconded by the Honorable Flores. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried.
With the permission of the Chairman, may I proceed?
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, question of the SDO. In the joint memorandum circular, and with regards to MC-97-002, the special disbursing officer has to acquire a fidelity bond. Tama po ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Now, under MC 97-002, the SDO, no? Unless MC 97-002 was amended by the COA, the SDO or any accountable officer should submit her or his salary to the Bureau of Treasury. Tama?
Tama po, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Now, do you have a specific document with regards to, in your possession, from the Bureau of Treasury with regards to the fidelity bond that was submitted by Ms. Gina Acosta in particular with regards to this confidential fund.
We have that document, Mr. Chair, but it is not with us right now.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move once again that the COA will submit to this honorable committee the fidelity bond that was submitted by the Office of the Vice President to the Bureau of Treasury and to the COA, Mr. Chairman. So move.
Second.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And in the case of this 125 million confidential fund, ano po ba in your practice, COA, and of course the Bureau of Treasury, if you cannot answer this, I will address this question to the Bureau of Treasury in the next hearing. Now, question, what is the ceiling of an SDO in this matter? This is a 125 million transaction or budget.
Mr. Chair, the BTR has a table which is dependent on the amount of the accountability.
So wala po kayo ngayon?
Yes, wala po ngayon,
Kasi
Mr.
dapat, di ba, nagsasalubong kayo ng BTR at saka COA?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We do use their table for our reference.
So you're using the table of the BTR with regards to accountability of the special disbursing officer or accountable officers?
Yes, Mr. Chair, because it is one of the requirements under the joint
Correct.
circular.
Mr. Chairman, again, I move that we invite the representative from the BTR, Bureau of Treasury, and the person that has knowledge with regards to this 125 million confidential fund, and bring or submit to this honorable committee the documents with regards to the accountability on this particular issue, Mr. Chairman, the 125 million confidential fund. The person in charge from the BTR, at the same time, the document that will indeed was submitted by the Office of the Vice President when the Vice President appoints a certain Gina Acosta. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I have still some questions. No, I will not go into detail because most of my question will be addressed to Ms. Gina Acosta, the Chief Accountant. Of course, I cannot ask the Vice President because he will not be answering the question of this honorable committee. But, Mr. Chairman, as of now, COA, please, in the next hearing, please bring with you all the MCs, no, memorandum circulars of the COA, so that this representation can ask you questions in relation to Joint Memorandum Circular 2015-01 and your MCs, no, not only Memorandum Circular 97-002. Kasi ito, di ba, regular audit to. Tama?
Yes po, Mr.
Or bring
Chair.
with you the specific guidelines with regards to requirements, no, and processes being required for the conduct of special audit and the fraud audit. Because I want to see, Mr. Chairman, this particular issue, and COA should justify why this cannot be done in a special audit or a fraud audit. And so that, Mr. Chairman, we can also scrutinize the specific guidelines of the COA with regards to special audit and fraud audit in aid of legislation, so that we in this committee, through the committee report, can propose possible amendments with regards to the guidelines of the COA on regular audit, special audit, and fraud audit, Mr. Chairman. Kasi gusto ko lang po makita if indeed COA made or taken due diligence with regards to this issue. Kasi napakalaki po to. And involved is the Office of the Vice President. No?
COA,
Yun
please.
po, Mr. Chairman. So, COA, please bring with you or submit to this committee your guidelines with regard to special audit and fraud audit.
COA, please take note of the manifestation of Congressman Paduano.
Noted, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lastly, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please
anyway,
proceed.
ano lang, diretso lang
Last
to.
question.
You can answer this or you can review it. Now, what's the difference? In jest, what's the difference between a regular audit, a special audit, and a fraud audit?
The regular audit is the regular financial audit, which we review all the transactions of the agency. A special audit or a fraud audit are requested for ano?
Mr. Chairman?
May I ask the...
Mr. Chairman, ako,
Call a friend.
with due respect to COA, dugtungan ko lang po.
Yes, please. Congressman Paduano.
Sinasabi mo kasi regular audit, yun yung annual audit, di ba? Tama?
Tama po,
Oo.
Mr. Chair.
Kasi, kaya nga regular siya because that is part of your mandate in any agencies, no? To conduct a regular audit every end of the year. Tama?
Yes po.
Okay. Now, kahit nga sa regular audit nyo, sometimes it happens and the next quarter na. The following year, di ba? Tama?
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Chairman, again, ayun po yung mga issue dito na diba, this honorable committee should put in the possible committee report. No? Kailangan kasi dito, Mr. Chairman, may certain accountability with regards to audit. And dapat may corresponding penalty. Kasi tingnan mo, Mr. Chairman, well, in fact, in my own experience, no, for the past year, fraud audit, it takes COA for 1 year. Fraud audit pa yun. Kung fraud audit nga nangyayari yung 1 year, siguro naman pati yung regular audit. Kasi yung fraud audit and special audit, may exigency po yun. No, pero anyway, who can answer the difference between a special audit and a fraud audit and a regular audit? May sasagot ba o next hearing na lang?
Mr. Chair, with regard to the...
Attorney Lapitan.
yes, Mr. Chair.
Are you going to answer or you will ask the committee to just answer it in the next scheduled hearing para medyo mas kabisado ninyo?
I will answer.
You will answer now?
Yes,
Okay, please. Briefly, okay. Please
Mr. Chair.
continue, Attorney Lapitan.
When we speak of a special audit, it comes in every form like fraud audit when there is when the transaction is covered or tainted with fraud, and we also have special audit like the levy audit, rate audit, which is being performed by other offices in the commission. When it comes to a regular audit, that's the audit of the financial transaction where the 3 audit streams are being practiced. Mr. Chair.
Ito kasi
Congressman
sunod
Paduano.
ng tanong, timeline.
With regard to the timeline, Mr. Chair, like the fraud audit, the COA issued several guidelines or internal policies. We have memorandum, COA Memorandum 2020-014, if I'm not mistaken. That governs the rules on fraud audit, and also there are issuances by other office in the commission in the performance of rate audit, levy audit, and other special audit, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Maybe, Mr. Chair, next hearing we will provide the full details.
Okay.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Last question.
Sige. Anyway, Mr. Chairman, pagbibigyan ko po yung COA kasi kaya nga po, kasi yung issue kasi dito is all about the difference between a regular audit, kasi pag regular, nandun na yun, 6 months, then another 2 months from the, di ba, for the commission to decide, di ba? Now, question of fraud audit, kaya nga fraud audit yun, kaya nga special audit yun, kasi there is an exigency. Kasi magkaiba yun, di ba? Tama? Now, as of now, you cannot answer about the timeline. Kasi hinahabol po natin dito is all about the timeline. Kasi all the more, justice delayed, justice denied. Pag tinawag kita, i-review nyo na lang. Pagandaan nyo next hearing. Etong case, OBP case, 125 million confidential fund. Does it merit a special or a full audit?
Actually,
Attorney
sir,
Camora.
it is, Mr. Chair, actually it is a compliance audit, so they have to comply with the joint circular.
Hindi nga, regular audit siya. Pero,
Compliance audit.
hypothetical lang. Until now nga, yung appeal hindi pa sinagot, but of course, they're given 180 days.
Yes.
Now, hypothetical lang. Is this particular case, pwede ba pumasok doon sa special audit? To conduct a special audit?
If there is a request, no?
If there is a what?
request for
Who will request? Kaya, who will request?
anyone,
Sorry?
any person, agency, or
Any person, any agency? Madam, you check na lang po yung guidelines nyo with regards to fraud and special audit. Kasi baka mamaya, magka-problema po kayo.
sige, thank
Please
you.
na po.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman,
Chair.
next hearing na lang po. I will just end my interpellation to COA, and I hope that next hearing, COA will prepare with regards to it and the BTR, Mr. Chairman. Because in this particular case, it is crucial role ng BTR at saka ng COA, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity. Thank you.